Today we'll learn how to create a frequency table in Excel. So let's dive in. I've already opened the Excel project file that we will work on it. It's called frequency. I have a link in the description so you can download the same file and follow along with me. A frequency table is very simple but very helpful as a tool when you're trying to get to know your data set. It allows you to put your data points into buckets. For example, with exam scores, it allows you to see how many students scored between 90 and 100, how many scored between 80 and 89, and so on and so forth. This table will help us create a bar chart or a histogram that represents the same distribution in graphical form. In this video, we'll focus on a few different ways that you can create a frequency table in Excel. Okay, let's get started. Click on the small class worksheet. So what we have here is a really small data set. As we see right here, 5 test scores. We don't really need a frequency table, do we? We can tell that there's one exam score in the 60s, one in the 70s, one in the 80s, and that there are 2 in the 90s. The issue is that we have 221 test scores, and putting those into buckets of 90s, 80s, 70s, and so on. Now, what you can see in the frequency sheet, what I've done right here, is I've started to build at least one piece of our frequency table. And the first thing I did was I said, well, an A for this class is going to be a score between 90 and up to 100. For a B, it's going to be a score between 80 and up to 90. And all of my numbers in the exam score column, they're all whole numbers, so we don't have any decimals here. And you'll notice that I've named the high end of each bucket or each grade. I've named that the bin. So we have a bin of 100, which means it's going from 100 down the next number, which is 89. So that tells us it's from 90 to 100. Our bin of 89, that goes from 89 to 80 because our next bin begins at 79. So this is going to be important as we create our frequency table. For this, we're going to use frequency function. So I'm going to click on my cell M4 and start typing in frequency. And there is our frequency function. The frequency function is asking us for 2 things. The data array, where we are going to get all of our test scores, and then our bin array, which you can see that we've highlighted already. So let's go ahead and choose our data array. And that's going to be all the numbers that we have right here. So column C. And then we're going to hit comma. And then we're going to utilize the bin array. So I'm going to highlight my 5 bins from L4 to L8. I'm going to close up my parentheses, and then I'm going to hit Control plus Shift plus Enter. And there we go. It turned it into. You can see right up here, it put the brackets around it because this is an array function. I'll hit Enter again, and you can see it created my frequency table. So we can see that frequency function has helped us identify the fact that there are 49 scores between 90 and 100, 44 scores between 80 and 89, and so on and so forth. Now, you might be looking at this going, hey, there's an extra item on your frequency table. What's this 0 about? Well, what the frequency table is trying to help you identify is whether or not there are scores that fall outside of these bins. So in this case, we're going all the way down to 0, and we're going up to 59. But notice the top bin goes from 90 to 100. And it's possible, because we stopped our highest bin at 100, it's possible that there could be an exam score above 100. But what the frequency function has done is told us, look, I already looked out for you. I've already counted, and I make sure that there are no additional exam scores above 100. If you want to double check this, here's another thing you can do. Click on M11 and sum up the numbers in your frequency table. And what do we find? There are 221 test scores in our frequency table and 221 test scores in total that we've counted. Now, one thing I don't love about this particular way of developing a frequency table is the fact that we have this two set of cells, two columns here, that are defining our bin from low of 90 up to 100. How about if I want to do this in a way that maybe looks a little bit better visually? Let's move to COUNTIFS sheet. So for this frequency table, we're going to use a different function. We're going to use the COUNTIFS function. And it's very important that you notice that there are a couple of different count functions. And we're not looking at COUNTIF, we're looking at COUNTIFS. And the reason why is because we want to check two things. Is it at the lowest 90 and at its highest 100? So here we go. We're going to choose our first criteria range. We're looking at our test scores, column C. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to say, well, what we want to do is we want to check to see whether or not this is greater than or equal to 90. So we're going to use quotation marks here. We use our quotation marks. We want this number to be greater than or equal to 90 at the low end. We close the quotation marks, then I'm going to hit comma. And as we can see right up here, you'll notice that I have all of this typed in. I'm going to do this the easy way. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste. And so you can see it has copied it over again because I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to change what's in the parentheses. Where the first time I wanted to know, is it greater than or equal to 90? Now I want to know, is it less than or equal to 100? And I close my quotation marks, I close my parentheses, enter. And look at that. When we compare this to what we have over here, it took a little more work, but now visually it looks a little bit better. So how do we do this for the rest of our grade ranges? For the B's, the C's, D's, and F's? What we can do is we can copy down. And you might say, well, wait a second. They're all 49. Because you can see in all of these, we continue to take the 90 and 100. So we simply need to adjust our low limit of 80, and our high limit is no longer 100. For this, it's going to be 89. For this next one, instead of it being 90, it's going to be 70 on the low end and 79 on the high end. For this one here, 60 to 69. And for our last one, all the way down to 0 and as high as 59. When we compare these, here's the frequency function: 49, 44, 54, 49, 25. Those are the same numbers here. Once again, if you want to double check, did we get all of our data points? Can we sum everything that we have here? And we're hoping it adds up to 221. And it does. The other thing you can do is you can take your data here and you can hit Control-T. Control+T is asking us, do we want to make this into a table? Sure, let's go ahead and do that. And there you go. And we can change our headings, grade of A, range, and then in this one, we can change that to the number of exams in that particular scenario. All right, so we just created frequency tables using the frequency function and the COUNTIFS function. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And if you have any questions, please post them under the comments. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end, and I'm going to catch you in the next video.